Princess Anne ended Camilla's daughter's entire public existence in exactly 120 seconds. And the single detail the global press completely missed: Laura Lopes was walking straight into a trap laid by her own mother's silence. That sounds impossible, until you examine the royal access logs, the estate audit timeline, and the precise spot where a 76-year-old royal stood in a Westminster hall, pretending to inspect a crate of local potatoes. This wasn't a spontaneous family argument. It was a surgical, cold-blooded institutional delivery. And Princess Anne wasn't the only person waiting in that room for the trigger to be pulled. The story the tabloids sold you was about family temper. The truth hidden inside the palace internal memos is about 29 years of backroom estate money, unauthorized trust funds, and an heir to the throne who decided that afternoon to burn down the informal networks inside his own home. Before we unlock the access logs and unredacted estate files, if you analyze the hidden mechanics of royal power, subscribe to Crown Watch right now. We map the paperwork, the guest lists, and the silent purges that never make the morning headlines. It was 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon in Westminster. The Royal Horticultural Halls, a charity showcase for rural development. Trestle tables, regional producers, handwritten labels on honey jars, and a Cumbrian farmer standing behind seed potatoes, waiting for his 90 seconds of royal attention. Princess Anne was working the floor with the mechanical precision she has deployed for over 5 decades. Structured navy coat, gold brooch, tight schedule, moving methodically through dignitaries without ever betraying a single emotion. 2 stands further down stood Catherine, Princess of Wales. That placement was not accidental. The Princess of Wales does not end up at a small agricultural showcase in June by chance. That was a high-level scheduling decision made weeks prior by senior advisors who wanted a specific photograph. The most dependable woman in the monarchy standing alongside the future queen. The palace has spent nearly 3 decades fighting the ghost of Princess Diana. The only answer it ever found was visible continuity. An older woman who never made a mistake, standing next to a younger woman the public trusts. Standing at the back of the hall was a freelance photographer with a 300mm lens, positioned at a precise 45-degree diagonal. That specific spot was the only angle in the entire hall from which you could capture the faces of 2 people standing at the 3rd display stand. He had been standing there since the doors opened at noon. Hold that detail, because a freelance photographer does not stand in a corner for 2 hours unless he has been told exactly where the drop is going to happen. At precisely 2:20, Laura Lopes entered through a side service door. She was not on the official working list. She had no security clearance to be on a restricted floor. She walked straight through the crowd without stopping, stepped within 6 feet of Catherine, waited for a gap in conversation, and raised her voice under a glass roof where acoustics carry a whisper 20 feet. The recent changes to the estate funding are a deliberate insult to my family, and everyone in this room knows exactly what you're doing. Catherine did not respond. She took half a step back, kept her expression entirely motionless, and looked at Laura the way you look at someone who has just committed professional suicide. 4 feet to the left, Princess Anne turned round, but she didn't turn immediately. First, she adjusted her gloves. One cuff, then the other, pulling the leather taut at her wrist. Then she stood completely still for 3 full seconds. In a room of 200 people, 3 seconds of absolute silence feels like an eternity. Long enough for the conversation at the far end to die out. Long enough for a broadcast camera to swing around. Then Anne asked a single question in a perfectly normal voice. Has the security team verified the guest list for the afternoon session? Not a word about the estate funds. Not a word about Camilla or the family insults. She did not argue with the accusation. She queried the woman's right to be standing inside the building. Being told in front of the press that the real question is how you got past the front door is an institutional execution from which no one recovers. Laura doubled down, accusing the royal household of using an ongoing financial audit to deliberately target her mother's side of the family. To understand why those words caused panic inside the palace, you have to understand what a royal estate audit actually is. It is not a casual review. It is a line-by-line reconciliation of every penny spent against what was legally authorized over a 10-year period. It uncovers 2 specific things: money that moved without signed paperwork, and ghost salaries paid to people who produce no evidence of work. Someone in Camilla's family knew that audit was coming, and the photographer's shutter was firing at 8 frames a second continuously. Within 2 minutes, protection officers quietly stepped forward and escorted Laura out to the lobby. But the institutional fallout was only beginning. By 5 o'clock that evening, Prince William walked into the basement briefing room at Buckingham Palace. He took off his coat, placed his phone hard on the mahogany table, and turned on the projector. He played the raw, unedited camera card retrieved from the freelance photographer. The sound of 8 shutter frames a second echoing in a silent room filled the space for 40 seconds. He looked at the director of security and stopped his explanation 6 words in. I don't want an explanation, I want a name. Within 20 minutes, access logs revealed the internal channel. A mid-level administrator inside the palace, married to a personal assistant inside Camilla's private office, had slipped the VIP pass through an informal channel. By 5:30, that manager was walked out through the back gates by security officers, carrying nothing. The Prince of Wales was no longer waiting for his reign to begin. He was asserting absolute operational authority right now. While William cleared the palace, Princess Anne was executing part 2. She traced encrypted files directly back to property sign-offs, uncovering a slow 4-year legal placement of staff inside estate offices. Junior positions across 4 separate estate branches had been quietly filled by people whose original recommendations ran back through the exact same handful of informal relationships. It was a systematic legal placement of personnel into the specific offices that decide how royal land is run and who gets paid for running it. By Thursday, Laura Lopez was sitting in a room surrounded by half-packed boxes. 4 million social media interactions were tearing the incident apart online. Then the second blow landed. Her personal bank accounts were flagged for high-level compliance reviews on all transfers exceeding £5,000. The estate audit had expanded past palace walls and directly into private banking records. She waited for her mother, Queen Camilla, to fix it, the woman who had quietly resolved royal disputes for 20 years. But Camilla went totally silent. Think about what that silence cost. Camilla has spent 30 years being the person inside that institution who fixes things quietly behind closed doors. The 1 week her own daughter needed that machinery to move, nothing happened. She disappeared into her private residence and refused to take calls. On Thursday afternoon, a sealed package arrived via private courier. Inside was not a note from a mother, but a formal legal letter from Camilla's personal attorney, running to less than a single page. Say nothing to anyone. Any public statement will sever your connection to the estate permanently. It wasn't abandonment. It was cold, calculated survival. The audit list contained unexplained money transfers. A family standing in front of cameras making public statements while an official audit list exists is a family walking into a courtroom. Camilla used 30 years of institutional experience to do the only thing left that could protect them, making them completely invisible. On Monday morning in the Privy Council chamber at Buckingham Palace, Prince William presented King Charles with a single-paragraph decree. It revoked all official standing, security clearances, and event invitations for Camilla's extended family with immediate effect. King Charles signed the decree without hesitation. The informal doors that had stood open for 20 years were permanently locked in under 2 minutes. If you want to see how Prince William and Princess Anne are now unpicking the legal property trusts across the Duchy of Cornwall in real time, click the video on your screen right now.